We live in a culture obsessed with dieting, weight loss, and exercise, and that can make eating disorder behaviors easy to miss. But the reality is, eating disorders are serious mental illnesses that take a major toll on your health and your life. But recovery is possible. Eating disorders are more common than you might think. Chances are you know someone who is struggling with one, or maybe you're struggling yourself. If you're concerned about an eating disorder in yourself or a loved one, I want to introduce you to Equip. Equip is a fully virtual, evidence-based eating disorder treatment program that helps patients achieve lasting recovery at home. Every Equip patient is matched with a multidisciplinary care team that includes a therapist, dietitian, medical provider, and mentors. And you get a personalized treatment plan that's tailored to your unique goals and challenges. Equip treats patients of all ages and all eating disorder diagnoses. It's covered by insurance, and there's no wait list. If you think that you or a loved one could be struggling with an eating disorder, don't wait to get help. Visit equip.health to learn more. That's equip.health.
If your team isn't using ClickUp, you're wasting time, and data proves it. 61% of knowledge workers manage work more than doing it, switching apps 1,000 times a day. That's work sprawl and costs millions. ClickUp replaces 20 apps with Convergence, uniting projects, docs, and chats, while AI super agents handle the busy work. Join 4 million teams using ClickUp to finish work 30% faster. Try it free and get 15% off AI upgrades at clickup.com/podcast. That's CLICKUP.com/podcast.
Hi, this is Matt from P1 with Matt and Tommy, and this episode is sponsored by eBay. The cars you'll find on eBay are just different. They come with a story that you can't wait to share. Like this 1973 Dodge Charger on eBay that's been tucked away in an Arizona barn for over 40 years, only 55,000 miles, and somehow in great running order. It even has a rare sunroof. Suddenly, a car that was hidden for decades is being delivered in just a few clicks with eBay's secure purchase. All the paperwork handled. There are thousands of cars on eBay, from unique finds like the Pontiac Grand Prix SJ to daily drivers, and now with a new way to buy them. eBay. Things people love.
We live in a culture obsessed with dieting, weight loss, and exercise, and that can make eating disorder behaviors easy to miss. But the reality is, eating disorders are serious mental illnesses that take a major toll on your health and your life. But recovery is possible. Eating disorders are more common than you might think. Chances are you know someone who is struggling with one, or maybe you're struggling yourself. If you're concerned about an eating disorder in yourself or a loved one, I want to introduce you to Equip. Equip is a fully virtual, evidence-based eating disorder treatment program that helps patients achieve lasting recovery at home. Every Equip patient is matched with a multidisciplinary care team that includes a therapist, dietitian, medical provider, and mentors. And you get a personalized treatment plan that's tailored to your unique goals and challenges. Equip treats patients of all ages and all eating disorder diagnoses. It's covered by insurance, and there's no wait list. If you think that you or a loved one could be struggling with an eating disorder, don't wait to get help. Visit equip.health to learn more. That's equip.health.
ClickUp just solved AI's biggest problem, and it's saving 4 million teams from productivity loss every day. Unlike ChatGPT and other AI tools, ClickUp converges all your work into one platform, so your AI super agents have full context to prioritize tasks, execute workflows, and draft documents instantly. Teams using ClickUp finish work 30% faster and cut meetings in half. Try ClickUp for free today and get 15% off AI upgrades at clickup.com/podcast. That's CLICKUP.com/podcast.
Hello, I'm Sarah, and welcome to the Whispering Woods After Dark. We are going to Edinburgh in this episode. I've got kind of two stories that are rolled into one, so one long narrative, and we have the Fairy Coffins and Gilmerton Cove. Just a quick heads up as well, we're now on YouTube, so if you want to come and have a look at our latest Reddit episode, We're on there, and I've put a link in the podcast notes. Right, I'll get straight into this. Are you ready for the stories? A boy scrambles up the craggy slope of Arthur's Seat. His fingers are digging into the damp earth and heather. The summer air of 1836 is cool in his lungs as he chases a stray rabbit into the rocks high above Edinburgh. Suddenly his foot slips. He grabs an outcrop, but the rock shifts with a scrape. A flat sheet of slate slides free, tumbling down and shattering beneath him. Heart pounding, the boy steadies himself on the ledge. That was a close call. Where the slab had been, a dark crevice gapes in the cliffside, about a foot high and hidden by the now broken slates. But curiosity overcomes his fear. He calls out to his friends below, and together the three youths pry away the remaining slabs, each one crudely carved like a little gravestone. The mouth of a small hand-dug cave lies revealed before them. For just a brief moment the boys hesitate. Inside the niche, something faintly gleams in the light. Rows of tiny coffins, carefully stacked. The bravest boy reaches in, gently removing one of the miniature coffins from its resting place. It fits inside his palm, only about 4 inches long, carved from a single block of wood. The lid is pinned shut with tiny metal pegs, and with trembling hands he pries it open. Inside lies a small wooden figure, a doll-like effigy of a human form. Its carved face stares back with wide, unblinking eyes. Features whittled with surprising skill. The figure is dressed in stitched cotton clothes, a simple shirt and trouser sewn in place. Another boy withdraws a second coffin, then a third. In each, it's the same scene. A miniature corpse figure, decently laid out in funerary dress. The coffins are studded on the outside with tacked-on bits of tin. 17 in all are nestled here. 17 tiny coffins in 2 neat rows of 8, with one starting a 3rd row. The boys look at one another, high on Arthur's Seat, in this hidden tomb in the rocks. They have stumbled upon a secret. Little do they know the mystery they've uncovered will haunt Edinburgh for centuries. It was early July 1836 when this discovery was made on Arthur's Seat. The craggy hill, an ancient extinct volcano that looms over Edinburgh, had always carried an aura of mystery and, of course, folklore. That summer, a group of 3 local boys were out on the hillside, ostensibly hunting for rabbits, when one boy uncovered a hidden cache behind thin slabs of slate in the cliff face. What they found, as later reported in the newspapers, was astonishing. 17 miniature coffins, each roughly 3 to 4 inches long, arranged in a tiny cave on the northeastern slopes of Arthur's Seat. The coffins were arranged in 3 tiers, 2 rows of 8 coffins side by side, with the 17th coffin alone beginning a 3rd row. Inside each little coffin was a wooden doll-like figure, with its arms and legs crudely carved. Some figures even had their arms removed to better fit in the boxes. The figures were dressed in handmade clothes sewn from cotton fabric, resembling burial shrouds or grave clothes, and each was laid out as though in a funeral pose. The coffin's lids were fastened by tiny pins or nails, and the tops were decorated with the small pieces of tinned iron. News of the boys' find spread quickly. The Scotsman newspaper broke the story on July 16, 1836, describing the Lilliputian coffins and their mimic representation of all the funeral trappings of death. From the start, Edinburgh's imaginations ran wild. Locals dubbed the objects the fairy coffins, as if these could be the miniature graves of supernatural creatures, or perhaps talismans of folk magic. The discovery was treated as more than a childish curiosity. It was a bona fide mystery that demanded explanation. Who on earth had placed these tiny coffins in the hillside? And for what purpose? Even the manner of their placement added to the mystery. Some of the coffins appeared much older and more weathered than others. According to one early account, the lower row of coffins was badly decayed, with rotted wood and mouldering cloth, while the coffin on the top tier looked almost fresh, as if only a few days had elapsed since their entombment. This led to speculation that the burials had been made gradually over many years, each coffin placed at a different time. But it's difficult to know for sure. The boys who found them were not archaeologists and admittedly disturbed the scene, even throwing some of the tiny coffins at each other playfully and smashing a few of them. Fewer than half of the original 17 were recovered intact. The Scotsman noted ruefully that a number were destroyed by the boys pelting them at each other as unmeaning, contemptible trifles. Ultimately, only 8 coffins survived and were later turned over to a watchmaker collector, then passed through hands until they ended up in the National Museum of Scotland around 1901. Those 8 little coffins, now carefully preserved under glass, remain on display in Edinburgh to this day. From the moment the miniature coffins were unearthed, people sought to explain their existence. In this era, when science still coexisted with superstition, it's not surprising that the first theories invoked the occult and supernatural. Was this the work of witches or warlocks practicing dark magic on Arthur's Seat? This notion of small effigies sealed in coffins brought to mind the idea of spell work. Perhaps the dolls were meant as symbolic sacrifices or curses. The Scotsman, though reporting in a rational tone, could not resist a tongue-in-cheek reference to this possibility. The paper wrote that, had we not some years ago abjured witchcraft and demonology, one might suspect that some of the weird sisters, witches, were hovering about Mushat's cairn or the Windy Gowl, who retained their ancient power to work the spells of death by entombing the likenesses of those they wished to destroy. In plain terms, were these little coffins a means to curse people by proxy, with each figurine representing a victim to be mystically harmed? Arthur's Seat itself has been associated with witch lore. The hill had seen more than its share of dark history, with hundreds of accused witches burned in Edinburgh during the 16th and 17th centuries. The idea of modern weird sisters still practicing in secret among the crags did not seem so far-fetched to a public steeped in these legends. But not everyone was convinced that sorcery was at play. The tiny interments might have had roots in folk customs or ceremonial magic, rather than malefic witchcraft. Later in 1836, another newspaper, the Edinburgh Evening Post, proposed a more benign folklore explanation. Perhaps the coffins were related to an ancient custom of burying in effigy departed friends who had died in a distant land. If a loved one died far from home and their body could not be recovered, people might create a symbolic miniature coffin and bury it as a stand-in for the absent corpse. This practice was noted in Saxony, a region in Germany, and possibly elsewhere in Europe. Along similar lines, the Caledonian Mercury chimed in with a sailor superstition. Some sailors allegedly asked their wives that, should they be lost at sea, the wife must give them a Christian burial in effigy back home. Could the Arthur's Seat coffins have been a sailor's wife's doing? 17 little burials for sailors lost at sea. Authorities of the time didn't entirely dismiss these ideas, but some scepticism was warranted. George Dalgleish, a curator of Scottish history, noted in a later analysis that there's little concrete evidence of such effigy burial customs in Scotland's record. And if the dolls were meant for witchcraft, say poppets to work evil, you would expect them to be mutilated or pierced, as in sticking pins into a doll, rather than carefully clothed and ensconced in coffins as if laid to rest in peace. The way these figures were gently buried suggests reverence, not malice. Another straightforward explanation was that the whole thing might have been nothing more than a morbid piece of play or whimsy. Some people describe the coffins as creepy child's playthings, implying that perhaps an imaginative individual, maybe even a child, had staged their own tiny funerals as a game. We know that the wooden figures appear to have been repurposed toy soldiers, their stiff, upright bearings and carved boots hinting at a former life, as playring figurines. And the dolls' arms were removed to fit in the coffins, and their eyes were left wide open. They were likely never meant to portray actual corpses. It's possible some eccentric hobbyist or lonely child decided to conduct a secret funeral for these old toys. As the years passed and the fairy coffins remained unsolved, new theories continued to emerge. And one in particular has captivated the public. This theory draws a line from those 17 tiny coffins to 17 brutal murders that shook Edinburgh only a few years before the coffins were found. The names at the centre of this theory are infamous: William Burke and William Hare. Burke and Hare were Irish immigrants who, in 1827 to 28, carried out a notorious string of murders in Edinburgh, selling the corpses of their victims to Dr. Robert Knox's anatomy school. In total, the two men delivered 17 bodies to the dissection tables, beginning with a lodger who died of natural causes, and continuing with 16 people whom they cold-bloodedly smothered for profit. The crimes, later dubbed the Westport murders, caused outrage. Burke was eventually caught and hanged for his crimes in 1829. Ironically, his own body was dissected as punishment and his skeleton preserved, while Hare turned king's evidence and escaped execution. The connection to Arthur's Seat first surfaced in the 1990s, when two academics, Professor Samuel Menefee and Dr. Alan Simpson, examined the construction of the miniature coffins and the context of their burial. They concluded that all the coffins were likely deposited in the 1830s, not long after Burke's hanging. More chillingly, they noted that the number of coffins, 17, exactly matched the number of Burke and Hare's victims, including that first natural death. This could hardly be a coincidence. Menefee and Simpson proposed a dramatic but hauntingly plausible scenario. The Arthur's Seat coffins were a secret act of atonement. Someone, perhaps someone who knew the murderers, or had been affected by their crimes, had crafted one tiny coffin for each lost life to give those souls a symbolic Christian burial that they never received. In their scholarly article, the researchers pointed out that in Scottish folklore there were precedents for mimic burials. By the same logic, Burke and Hare's victims, whose bodies were dismembered and never laid in hallowed ground, might have been given the secret funeral on Arthur's Seat, an attempt to set their spirits at rest. As Menefee and Simpson wrote, in the absence of the 17 dissected bodies, it would not be unreasonable for some person to wish to propitiate these dead by form of burial. The Burke and Hare theory casts the mysterious coffin maker in an empathetic light. Perhaps a former accomplice, a remorseful friend, or simply a citizen horrified by the killings who took it upon themselves to right a cosmic wrong. Interestingly, William Burke's former profession was a cobbler, shoemaker. A shoemaker would have had the skills to carve wood tolerably well, and access to small scraps of tin and nails, exactly the kind of materials and craftsmanship seen in the coffins. Perhaps an associate or family member of Burke and Hare, or someone who learned of the full extent of their atrocities, undertook this project in secret. The coffin figurines, all being male, dressed in tiny trousers, despite most of the murdered victims being female, is a point against the theory. The proponents counter that dolls, likely being repurposed toy soldiers, were simply what was available. Their maker might have cared more about creating a complete set of 17 than about tailoring each effigy's gender. While no definitive proof links the coffins to Burke and Hare, this theory remains the most famous and compelling explanation. It ties together threads of history and folklore into a narrative almost too fitting. That on a quiet hill overlooking the city, someone tried to lay Edinburgh's darkest chapter to rest in miniature coffins. Not far from the spot where Burke was hanged, and not far from the museum that still keeps his bones, there's a quieter darkness. Beneath the suburban streets of Gilmerton, just a few miles southeast of the city centre of Edinburgh, a carved stone labyrinth sits in silence. Its name is Gilmerton Cove, and if you've not heard of it, you're not alone. Most locals pass by the unassuming row of shops above it without knowing what lies beneath their feet. It's not a ruin, not quite a cave, not a mine, and not, despite early claims, a smuggler's den. It's something else, something made deliberately by human hands, for reasons that we still cannot explain. What's down there is unsettling, not because it's full of bones or blood or flickering lights, but because it isn't. It's clean, dry, carefully constructed. 7 chambers, narrow passages, benches and tables carved directly into the stone. Alcoves shaped like shrines or shelters, all sitting under the skin of a quiet neighbourhood. There's a fireplace complete with chimney, grooves where doors once hung, and a well, or something like one, choked now with earth and dust. But no records explain it, no maps show it, and no one knows quite who made it or why. The most repeated explanation credits a man named George Patterson, a blacksmith who lived in the area in the early 1700s. Tradition claims that he carved the entire cove by hand over the course of 5 years and used it as a kind of private tavern. But the story doesn't sit comfortably with the site itself. The chambers are far too elaborate, cut too deep, too cleanly into the sandstone to be casual work. And even if Patterson did use it, there's little evidence he made it. Older legends speak of something else, that the cove was used by the Knights Templar, that it was a witch's sanctuary or initiation chamber, that druids met here before the stones were ever houses, that it was never meant to be found. Those who descend the narrow staircase often remark on the stillness. The temperature doesn't shift. Sounds don't echo properly. It's the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring, like something is trying to fill the vacuum left behind. And it doesn't feel like a tavern. It feels like something that was done here. One chamber in particular, nicknamed the chapel by guides, draws the most speculation. It has a stone bench running around the wall, and 2 alcove-shaped like seats at the far end. Opposite them, a raised niche like an altar. The walls are close, the ceiling low. Standing there, it's hard not to feel watched, even when you're alone. Some believe rituals were conducted here, Masonic, pagan, or otherwise. Tour guides will say no proof exists, but that's the point. Places like this aren't built for strangers to understand. They're built to be hidden. And Gilmerton Cove was very well hidden indeed. Before its rediscovery in the 20th century, it had been sealed for over 100 years, buried under pavement and forgotten. When it was reopened, there were no relics inside. No clear markings of use, just the architecture itself, strange and clinical and enduring. If anything ever happened down there, it left no trace, but folklore fills the gaps. In the years since the cove was opened to the public, visitors have reported a steady trickle of strange encounters. Nothing dramatic, but persistent. The feeling of being watched in the hallway between rooms, faint shuffling footsteps behind them. Children crying softly from deeper inside. Though no one is there. A cold breeze brushing the neck in a place where no wind could be. One former guide claims she would often find the candles she left on the benches unlit, moved between rooms, without explanation. Another quit after hearing a low male voice speak her name from the dark chamber behind the sealed well. She had been alone at the time. A psychic once insisted there was something old in the chapel room. Not a spirit exactly, but an impression. A presence that had been deliberately bound to the space. When asked to elaborate, she only said, "It's below us. Not here, but just beneath." Perhaps the most intriguing detail of Gilmerton Cove is the tunnel that once ran from it to somewhere else. The passage was bricked up during roadworks in the 19th century and has never been reopened. Its destination is unknown, though some speculate it may have connected to Craigmillar Castle or even stretched toward Holyrood. What's more unsettling is the suggestion, shared quietly among local historians, that before it was sealed, the tunnel was still being used. Children claimed to hear voices from a grate in the street. A lamplighter once reported hearing laughter echo up through the stone just after dusk. After the tunnel was closed, the report stopped. But the silence left behind hasn't settled. The fairy coffins were found in a hillside, tucked away like a warning or a ritual. Gilmerton Cove is the inverse, a hidden room beneath the earth, empty now, but built with the same care and secrecy. A place that seems meant to be remembered but not understood. Maybe that's why it still feels alive. Not haunted, exactly, just incomplete. Like someone was trying to make a place just like this for a reason. One we're not quite meant to know. And the fact that no one's ever found another place quite like it. That might be the most unsettling part of all.
We live in a culture obsessed with dieting, weight loss, and exercise. And that can make eating disorder behaviors easy to miss. But the reality is, eating disorders are serious mental illnesses that take a major toll on your health and your life. But recovery is possible. Eating disorders are more common than you might think. Chances are you know someone who is struggling with one. Or maybe you're struggling yourself. If you're concerned about an eating disorder in yourself or a loved one, I want to introduce you to Equip. Equip is a fully virtual, evidence-based eating disorder treatment program that helps patients achieve lasting recovery at home. Every Equip patient is matched with a multidisciplinary care team that includes a therapist, dietitian, medical provider, and mentors. And you get a personalized treatment plan that's tailored to your unique goals and challenges. Equip treats patients of all ages and all eating disorder diagnoses. It's covered by insurance, and there's no wait list. If you think that you or a loved one could be struggling with an eating disorder, don't wait to get help. Visit equip.health to learn more. That's equip.health.
ClickUp just solved AI's biggest problem, and it's saving 4 million teams from productivity loss every day. Unlike ChatGPT and other AI tools, ClickUp converges all your work into one platform, so your AI super agents have full context to prioritize tasks, execute workflows, and draft documents instantly. Teams using ClickUp finish work 30% faster and cut meetings in half. Try ClickUp for free today and get 15% off AI upgrades at clickup.com/podcast. That's CLICKUP.com/podcast.
Now, I don't know if they are linked to Birkenhair myself. Those little coffins, I just find it really intriguing, and that nobody knows why they were there. It could have just been some kind of joke, but kind of a weird one. To go to the time to make all those coffins, and it is interesting that the amount of the coffins tie in with the victims of Birkenhair. I'd love to know what you guys think about it. And on to the next story. Oh, if you look at the pictures online, there are plenty on there, and you can just feel the disquiet. Well, I can, or I imagine I can. Imagine being locked down there on your own at night. No, I can. I'm not even letting my brain go there because I don't want to. But it is unsettling. It's really spooky. And maybe it's the lighting down there. Maybe because there's no natural light. Don't know. And obviously there is lighting, so you can see it in the pictures. But what I mean is no natural light. And it looks shady. Shady as. Well, that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you again on Tuesday. Take care, everyone.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
Did you know you can save up to 70% on your favorite brands every single day? FromRebel.com sells strollers, car seats, espresso machines, skincare, cookware, everything you need for your home, your family, and your life, all for way less. Here's how it works. Every day, Rebel drops thousands of new products for up to 70% off. It's a nonstop feed of deals from brands like UPPAbaby, Nuna, Baby Bjorn, Nespresso, Breville, Wilson, Dyson, Caraway, and more. But every listing is one of a kind, so if you see something you love, you have to move fast. Why pay full price when you don't have to? From baby gear to tech to self-care staples, Rebel helps you save big on brands you know and love. Shop now at FromRebel.com.
When stress, late nights, and daily routines make it hard to unwind, your skin can feel it. Now there's a better way to care for your skin overnight with Osea's new Dream Bioretinol Body Serum. A dreamy bedtime body serum powered by bioretinol and red seaweed to visibly firm and smooth, while soothing magnesium and lavender helps promote a sense of serenity. Give your skin a rest with Osea. And right now, get 10% off your first order site-wide with code DREAMY at OseaMalibu.com or find Osea at Ulta.
The stories told on the Whispering Woods are inspired by historical records, witness reports, and local folklore. While every effort is made to research and represent events accurately, some details, names, and locations may differ from official accounts or have been changed out of respect for those involved. These episodes are created for storytelling and entertainment purposes and should not be considered definitive fact or investigative journalism.